Hello students, welcome to economics class. Today we are going to discuss about the fourth and fifth chapter, that is strategy of industries, that is industrial growth from 1950 to 1990. This is chapter 4. In this very chapter we will discuss about these key points, that is importance of industry, factors necessitating direct participation of the state, IPR 1956, development of small scale industries, and analysis of strategy of industrial growth. Now, before discussing about the importance of industry, let us discuss the meaning of industry. Industry refers to the combination of fixed and variable factors which help to produce the finished goods with the help of raw material, that is, that leads to the conversion of raw material into useful goods. So this is about the industry. You have already studied about the concept of fixed factors and variable factors in class 11, so I'm not going to recall these topics. Now, what's about the importance of industry? The very first is epicenter. Epicenter means the point, the main portion around which the growth process of an economy revolves. Now, because of development of industries, there has increased, there has occurred a structural transformation in the economy. Now, what's about the structural transformation? It is a gradual process of reallocation of labor and other productive resources across economic sectors during the growth process. In earlier phases of development, the most of the labor force is engaged in agriculture sector, but in agriculture sector there is disguised unemployment, seasonal unemployment, backwardness is also there, less lack of development is also there in agriculture sector of India. But due to growth of industries, there has occurred structural transformation. Now, the labor and other productive resources are shifted from agriculture sector to secondary sector. Now, what's about the source of employment? As we have already studied, that due to industrial growth, there has occurred structural transformation. That is, labor is now shifting from agriculture sector to secondary sector, that is, manufacturing sector. Then, source of mechanized means of farming. As we have already discussed, that Indian agriculture sector is quite backward because of lack of mechanized means of farming. But in this new phase, now agriculture sector is growing very fast due to the mechanized means or tools, equipments, threshers, etc. produced in industries. So, because of industrial development, our agriculture sector is also developing. Now, imparts dynamism to growth process. Imparts means provide karna. Yesterday during doubt session, one of you asked about the meaning of impart dynamism, which impart is a separate word and dynamism is a separate word. Now, because of industry, there has increased dynamism in growth process. In the absence of industry, growth process remains restricted towards the production of food for survival, means just the basic requirement. But when industrial sector grows, the result is increase in diversified products that are not only meant for the basic requirements, rather they lead to the growth of civilization, urbanization. Actually, uh, industrial growth produce diversified goods that leads to the increase in quality of life, that is, living standard, means it increases civilization also, the process of civilization. Now, infrastructural growth. Infrastructure, as we have already studied, this is a supporting structure and is very, very important for an economy. And the means of infrastructure, like the roadways or uh, transport transport, railways, roadways, then communication, banking, insurance, all these develop because of industrial growth. Because the need for infrastructure increases when there is industrial growth. So, what we can say that industrialization is a sine qua non of growth. Sine qua non means prerequisite condition. So, if we want growth in an economy, we need the process of industrialization. So, because of all these points, we can say that industrial sector is very very important for the development of an economy. Now, what's about the factors necessitating direct participation of the state? In India, the burden of industrial growth was taken by the government because of the reasons that first is lack of capital in private hands. As we have already studied, after a long slavery, India got independence, and industrial development in India needed a big push, and that is large amount of capital expenditure, and our private sector was not capable to invest such a huge investment. Then low inducement to invest. The investment depends on the profit. The inducement means the incentives to earn profit. But in India, at the time of independence, approximately 50% of population was living below poverty line. That's why there was lack of inducement among the capitalists or the producers. Now, growth with social justice. India had adopted the goal of growth with social justice, and in order to achieve this goal, socialistic pattern was required. Socialistic pattern means economic control over the resources. So, in order to achieve this growth, the state or the government took the entire responsibility of industrial growth. Now, to maintain balanced occupational structure, as we have already studied, at the time of independence, our occupational structure was quite unbalanced. Then, development of commanding heights of the economy. Commanding heights of the economy means those industries which are of strategic importance, like the transportation, communication, then power generation, means in crux we can say these are the industries that are considered with the development of infrastructure. Now, we will discuss about the industrial development. Need for industrial development, accelerating the pace of growth, creating more stable employment opportunities, and promoting modernization and overall prosperity. So, 5-year plan emphasized a lot on industrial development. Now, Industrial Policy Resolution 1956. Dear students, it is very very important to note that first IPR was enacted in 1948 and second IPR was adopted in 30th July 1956. As per IPR of 1956, industries were classified into three categories. Now, what's about the three categories? The very first one, industries owned by state like the atomic energy, aircraft, railways, shipping, etc. And secondly, joint venture of state and private sector. 12 industries were there like the aluminium, mining industries, fertilizers, etc. And Schedule C, this is owned and controlled by private sector but controlled by government through license. Means all those industries that were not meant for Schedule A and Schedule B were scheduled in C. And what was the main feature of this schedule? That these industries were owned and controlled by the private sector but controlled by government through license. So the second main point is licensing. Industrial licensing. This is the written permission from the government to an industrial unit. First is setting up of new industries. No new industry was allowed without license. Economically backward region obtained license easily and some concessions in the form of tax benefits and electricity at lower tariff. It promotes regional equality. Then the expansion of existing ones, then diversification of products. In this very slide, we have already discussed about the uh, concessions, but we can consider this as a separate point like industrial concessions. Under industrial concessions, Tax holidays, that is freedom from the payment of tax for some time, was provided, and subsidized raw material and power supply was also provided to the industries that were established in uh, regionally backward regions. Now, what's about the small scale industries? Here again, there is a Carvey committee. You have to learn this Carvey committee. Village and Small Scale Industries Committee, popularly known as Carvey Committee, was constituted in 1955 to promote rural development. Small scale industries are basically labor intensive and create more employment opportunities. Small scale industries were given concessions like lower tax, bank loans at a lower interest rate, etc., protecting small scale industries from big firms through reservation of products. We will discuss this point in detail in our upcoming chapters. Now, analysis of industrial development, which is this slide is very very important because you have to learn data from this slide. Like proportion of GDP contributed by the industrial sector increased to 24.6% in 1991. And second, this is annual growth rate was 6%. Then wide range of diversification. Then promotion of small scale industries, new investment opportunity for employment generation, protection from foreign competition through import substitution industries. Licensing policy helped the government to monitor and control the industrial activities. Many public sector undertakings incurred losses but continued to do the function. So, this is about the salient features of industrial strategy at the time of uh, during the period of 1950 to 1990. Now, we will discuss some bad effects also. Public sector monopolies, inefficiency, corruption, leakage, and pilferages leads to the turning of public sector undertakings into a dead social weight. Means just like a weight, just like a white elephant, means a financial burden for the government. Protection of domestic industry failed to achieve international standards of product quality. Then, saving foreign exchange through import substitution proved to be an inefficient policy instrument because India's foreign exchange reserves started shrinking and reached to their bottom in 1990. Now, we will discuss about the next topic. This is international trade. In this very slide, we are going to discuss the meaning of foreign trade. Then we will discuss about the key points. First is the meaning of foreign trade. Export and import of goods and services across different countries is called international trade. Generally, it is meant for profit or for supremacy. So, what we can define that in simplest form, foreign trade refers to export and import of goods and services across different countries. Now, what's about the key points? What we are going to discuss in this very chapter. This is meaning and gains of international trade, India's trade at the time of independence, India's trade after independence, and inward looking trade strategy. So far, we have discussed about the meaning of foreign trade. Now, what's about the gains of international trade? The very first, it facilitates specialization, hence leads to cost advantages. जो चीज़ें हम अपने कंट्री में कम रेट पर प्रोड्यूस कर सकते हैं उनको हम ज़्यादा प्रोड्यूस करके एक्सपोर्ट करें और जिन चीज़ों को हम अपने कंट्री में महंगा प्रोड्यूस कर पाते हैं उनको हम अपने कंट्री में प्रोड्यूस करने की बजाय इम्पोर्ट कर सकते हैं. दिस इज़ द कॉस्ट एडवांटेज. नाउ enhances the size of market along with domestic market. Now a country can sell its produce to in global market also. Now facilitates import of essential goods at competitive price, as we have already discussed this point. Now increase inflow of foreign exchange. Definitely, when a country exports goods and services, the country will be able to get foreign exchange reserves. Now it promotes quality of life of the trading countries. Because of foreign trade, there is diversification of availability, that is diversification of goods available, available goods. The result is improvement in quality of life. Then it enhances the opportunities of investment along with the domestic market. Now individuals can invest in global market. Now it serves as an engine of growth. Because of international trade, the overall growth rate increases, and increase in development definitely boost the development of an economy. Now, India's foreign trade at the time of independence. In this very question, we will discuss the three concepts. One is the volume, second is the composition, and third is the direction. Now, what's about the volume? The volume of international trade was moderate due to decay of Indian handicrafts during the Britishers. However, the balance of trade was surplus, that, that is India's exports were more than India's imports. We have already discussed about the surplus trade balances in chapter number 1. Now the composition. India was a net exporter of raw material and an importer of finished goods. The direction was restricted largely towards Britain. So this is the scenario of India's foreign trade at the time of independence. Now India's foreign trade after independence. The very first point is volume of trade. India's foreign trade has risen by 3000 times. Percentage rise in exports and imports has been high due to base effect. Now, what's about the base effect? It means initially the volume of exports and imports was very low. Accordingly, even a small rise in the total volume shows a significant rise in terms of percentage rise. This is base effect. It is also to be noted that up to 1990, the share of India's foreign trade in global trade has tended to decline due to the adoption of inward looking trade policy. Now, what's about the composition? Here we are going to discuss about three main points. First is the decline in percentage share of agricultural exports due to development of agro-based industries and substantial increase in domestic consumption of farm products. Secondly, decline in percentage share of conventional items like jute, food grains and minerals etc. due to the development of domestic demand for these goods. Then increase in percentage share of manufactured goods in exports like gems and jewelry due to the developmental activities including advancement in technology in India. Now what we can conclude that instead of importing finished goods, now India is importing raw material and exporting finished goods. This is because of the process of development and advancement in technology. Means the entire scenario of the composition of India's foreign trade has now changed. Now, what's about the direction of foreign trade? Similarly, our direction of trade has also completely changed. India's major trading partners are UAE, China, USA, Switzerland, Singapore, Australia, Iran, Hong Kong, UK, Japan, etc. And India's export partners are USA, UAE, and China. India's import partners are China, USA, and Saudi Arabia. It is interesting to note that India's imports from China are much more than exports to China. Means the China, because we all know that Indian markets are sufficiently filled or over flooded with Chinese product. Now, inward looking trade strategy, it is very important question. It is also known as import substitution. Till 1991, government followed inward looking trade strategy. It was meant to promote and protect domestic industry. This strategy is also known as import substitution. Import substitution refers to replacement or substitution of imports by domestic production. बाहर से सामान मंगवाने के बजाय विद इन द कंट्री इसको प्रोड्यूस किया जाए in order to get twin benefits. First, promotion and protection of domestic industries, and secondly, to save foreign exchange. Now, two objectives of import substitution. First is the saving of foreign exchange, achieving self-reliance. Now, protection of import through tariff and quota. We will discuss these two, that is the tariff barriers as well as non-tariff barriers, in later part of the book also. Now, what's about the tariff? Tariff refers to a tax levied on imported goods. Heavy taxes were imposed on imported goods to discourage imports. Now, quota, also known as non-tariff barriers, specify the maximum limit of import. Now, what were the reasons for import substitution? We have already discussed these points. First, to protect domestic industry so that it can withstand the intense competition from the industries of developed nations, because Indian industries were in their infant stage, so it was very essential to protect these industries from foreign competition. Now, to control the depletion of foreign exchange reserves, restrictions or imports were very necessary. Next, what we conclude from these two chapters, first is agriculture sector. Because of uh, these policies, that is the strategy, economic planning till 1991, agriculture sector became self-sufficient in food grains, and land reforms resulted in abolition of jamidari system. Now, industrial sector, industries became more diversified. Growth of industries was not satisfactory. We all know about this. And foreign trade sector, domestic producers were protected, failed to strong, uh, develop strong export sector. Now, one more point is there. In 1991, India had to, in the year financial year 1991, India had to face economic crisis. That's why after 1991, India India had to change its entire economic policies, and due to this particular reason, the year of 1991 is known as a year of economic divide. We will discuss about these policies and these circumstances in our next chapter. This is economic reforms since 1991. With this chapter is completed. What you are to do, bache, you are to revise your chapter thoroughly, and please send me your doubts either on app or in group or to me personally. So dear students, do your work properly, enjoy the day, prepare yourself for unit test. Have a wonderful day.